Kaustubha Das here with the big announcement for Wisdom of the Sages listeners. This August will be Ashram Month at the Super Soul Farm. Simple ashram living, rising early, morning kirtan, yoga and pranayama, healthy vegan and vegetarian meals, farm seva and being immersed in nature, and then gathering in the evenings for kirtan and readings. Plus, each week we'll have a lead presenter teaching a different facet of the philosophy and lifestyle of Bhakti Yoga. Week number 1 will be the exceptional Bhakti Lata teaching a course called The Beauty of Bhakti, bringing the culture of love and devotion into our lives. Week number 2 is my brother from another mother, Raghunath, teaching Falling in Love with Divinity, the Bhakti-yogi's method for opening the heart. And week number 3 is myself with a course called Following the Path, examining the history and teachings of Bhakti Yoga. You can come for 1, 2, or all 3 weeks, and the pricing is by donation. For more dates and information, go to wisdomofthesages.com/events. Peace. Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm. This is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday's study of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We got about 90 people here on Zoom listening. If you're one of the others out there that are just listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, etc., you can join us live on Zoom too. It's a little different. You have a little intro, a little outro, which you don't get on the podcast. We look at each other. We write each other secret messages. You can do that too. Just email Mara, wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com, and you will get the secret codes to enter into our coven. Good morning, Kaustubha.
Good morning, Raghunath.
It's coven or coven?
Coven. I was wrong. The other day I thought it might have been coven, but we were told it was coven.
Oh, you corrected me and you were wrong.
Yeah.
That's not allowed. You're allowed to correct me, but you have to be right. Isn't that correct, Mara?
That's right.
Mara very often tries to correct me.
Does she?
Yeah, she does. It's all right. It's okay. You're allowed to. Just got to be right. So anyway, we're in it.
Does that go for you as well?
Yeah. Yes. That's why I don't give unsolicited advice. It's one of my rules.
Right. Unless it's on a mute point. Remember that one?
Oh, yeah. Your word nerded me out here, sir. Very funny. Very funny.
Okay.
Very, very funny. All right. Where are we at today?
Announcements? Should we do announcements?
Let's do announcements.
We have an asana class with Ariel Castillo for Patreon members right after the show at 7:15 a.m. this morning. And then there's Bhakti Recovery Group. The men meet at 11 a.m. and the women meet at 2.
I got a little something for Kaustubha today. I thought he might like.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
My mom's
Nice.
nuts t-shirt. Yes. Why does that make me laugh so much?
I don't know.
I surprised him with this one. I still don't quite understand the name of my mom's nuts. Is my mom nuts or is it her like coconut? Because everything's coconut based.
I think it's playing with both of those ideas right now.
I think there's even a third one, but I won't mention that one.
Okay.
Anyway. All right. We got any? Oh, I haven't got an announcement. we have made a kid ticket for 4th of July.
Oh, yeah.
At Super Soul Farm. We're doing our Wisdom of the Sages retreat. Come spend the 4th with me and Kaustubha and Mara. And Mara's going to make some vegan meatballs for that, I think. And we're going to have a cookout as well. That's
you
what
say
you
spend the 4th, but it's like the whole weekend, right? Or can
It's
you
like
do
a whole
either?
weekend. We're going to have lots of kirtan. And here's the interesting thing, Kaustubha.
Yeah.
We don't have to change anything in our life. We just have to Krishnaize it. We have to, right? You can still have a party. You can
this is
still
where
have the
he
4th of July.
justifies certain activities. What
What?
is it that you're going? What is it that you're going to
No,
rationalize?
No,
right now?
it's not rationalizing. Is you take everything that you do. You like
Everything.
parties? Parties are fun. The soul is meant to party, but you got to party in a way that's uplifting, that's
Okay. I accept that.
enlivening, right?
Yeah.
You want to do the 4th of July? Do it. Just do it. Do it with lots of kirtan. Do it with prasad.
Offer the
Sing,
food, yeah.
dance, enjoy with friends.
Fireworks? Can you do fireworks and Krishna?
You can't because the sheep bug out. But
Okay.
yeah, the sheep are scared of fireworks.
So my question is this: it's a full weekend retreat, right? But can people also come just on the 4th, or is that not? Is that option?
On the 3rd, actually. So,
Oh, the 3rd. We're
the
going.
3rd is the open day. Yeah. So check it out. Go to wisdomofthesages.com and it's under what, Rachel? Sage Academy? Sage Academy tab. Lots of cool stuff happening. Register now.
And kids get in at a super discount kind of thing, right?
Kids get in at cost.
At cost.
At very cost. So good. And is there an age limit with the kids?
8 to 12 is what's considered.
8 to 12. Under 8, you're not a kid. You're not.
So, like, if people live in the area, they can just show up on the 3rd, or they can register for just the 3rd, right? And that'll be our celebration.
Yeah. Yes. Or some people just want to come up for the day or whatever.
That's what I'm
We're
saying.
looking forward to it. All righty. You want to get into our nugget today, Prabhu?
I do.
By the way, Ashram month is filling up.
Okay.
It's very cool. Go to wisdomofthesages.com Ashram month. If you're interested in living in an ashram for 1 week, 2 week, or 3 weeks, we got you covered. You come, you study, you live simply. Kirtan morning and evening, delicious food. Super excited about that.
So people need to sign up soon because there's not all that many spots available.
There's not that many spots. It's just we're not like a huge facility. Okay, here's a nugget. We are doing the Transcendental Authors Nuggets
Specifically
this week.
Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Are we just doing Emerson this week?
Just Emerson. It's all Emerson.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay, we're doing Emerson. It's Emerson week.
Mhm.
Nugget. Ready? If the
It's a
stars
short
should,
nugget, so
it's a short nugget.
relatively short.
If the stars should appear but one night every 1,000 years, how man would marvel and adore.
Oh, I put a longer quote just underneath that, Raghunath, because it's the same quote, but it's expanded.
If the stars should appear one night in 1,000 years, how men believe and adore and
Would
preserve.
How men would
How
believe.
would men believe and adore and preserve for many generations?
Hold it. It's not. He's not asking it as a question. Like, how would men believe and adore? He's saying, like, as a statement, how. Actually, you know what? It
Like
is
they would really adore
translated
it.
Weird. How would men? You know, it would have been. We could
No,
have been
no.
edited.
It's how men would.
There you go. Yeah, it could have been edited like that. How men would believe and adore.
Like we would like if they appeared for 1,000. If they only
One
appeared
night.
once in 1,000 years, it'd be like
Yeah.
we would adore them so much. That's
There
what
you
they mean.
go.
So it's
Yes.
like,
and
right?
believe
And preserve for many generations the remembrance of the city of God, which had been shown. No, but every night come out these envoys of beauty and light the universe with their admonishing smile.
admonishing.
Mara, admonishing.
I was just saying, well, there is so much here, right? So he's just saying, right? In one sense, you know, the Transcendentalists are really into nature, right? I think they're really more into seeing God through nature than going to a church. Right?
Well, they got out of city. They got out of Boston, which is a thriving metropolis at the time.
Okay.
And they moved to whatever, Concord, Walden Pond.
Well, Walden Pond, you've been there before?
The countryside.
Yeah, they went to the countryside. So, but for the reason because they felt, like it wasn't in the church that they were feeling some connection to the divine, but they were feeling it more in nature, right? And so he's making this point, right? The stars are there every night, right? But imagine if they only came out one night every 1,000 years. It would be blowing people's minds.
I know. Oh
right?
my God!
It's
right?
like something that's revealing so much about our position in the universe, our existential position and everything. It's being. There's a massive clue to it being shown that once every 1,000 years, everything opens up and it shows us. We're just this one tiny little dot in this massive universe, and there's so many worlds out there that there's so much beyond our little tiny little home, and it would make us believe more, and he says we would preserve for many generations the remembrance of the city of God, which had been shown, books would be written about it, and we'd be handing it down that maybe you'll never see it in your life, but once every 1,000 years it's shown who we are.
Anything is like that, though. That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's not just stars. It's like,
no.
Imagine if you've never seen a raccoon. It's the beast, the beautiful beast with the bandit eyes. The raccoon, the special raccoon day. It happens once a year. Or a butterfly day happens every 10 years. The butterfly comes out.
Now let me ask you a question, Raghunath.
Yes.
So he says, he makes that point, and that's a relatively profound point, I think, we're taking it for granted that clues to our existence are being shown to us all the time, and we're just walking right past it.
Clues to the magic of the universe, my friend.
Yeah.
Not just of existence, of the magic.
The magic as
that
well.
We're bathing in. That we're bathing in.
Okay. But then here's my question. But he says, but every night come out these envoys of beauty and light, the universe, with their admonishing smile. What are they admonishing? What's
admonishing mean?
It means it's kind of like
speak loud.
Reprimand.
Reprimand. Okay.
Yeah,
Yogeshri's back here.
Pointing out how we're wrong about something.
Okay.
Right. So as these stars are smiling on us, what are they admonishing us for?
They're admonishing us for being so forgetful versus neglectful by taking the magic for granted.
Okay, I think that's one. I think that's a good one. I have another.
How do you look at? How do you hear that? How do you read that?
I read it a bit like admonishing us for not zooming out, right? For having such a very tiny vantage point and not having the imagination or the inquisitiveness to look beyond that, right? To make such a big deal about every tiny little thing. Right? Get caught up in and get lost in all the minutia of life, when actually there's such a bigger picture to look at. In other words, not here in one sense, the stars are showing us that in terms of space, but also in terms of time, right? That these stars have been sitting up there for, thousands and thousands and thousands, millions of years, right? And we're thinking that what's happening today is such a big deal. I'm so caught up in it. I'm so lost. So they're admonishing us. They're showing, hey, we've been standing here forever, and you're so caught up in your little world. There's so much more. Expand, right?
Okay. I can see that too. I could see that too.
Okay.
Sometimes there's these magic moments you get too that are just sort of like wake up calls with the universe. Ever have one of those? Just this is magic. We've taken things for granted. Krishnagi wrote that she never has she's only saw a raccoon a couple times because there's no raccoons in Finland.
No raccoons there?
No raccoons in Finland. I had a magic
right next door to I just walk in the park. As soon as I walk in there, there's a tree that has about 5 raccoons living in it. As soon as I walk in there, if I go out really early in the morning, sometimes they're wandering around.
I had a magic nature moment once. I was doing a 20-day fast in Australia.
Uh-oh.
And I
hold it. Was this some kind of divine revelation? Was it a hallucination?
This was not a hallucination. I was just drinking
but you were fasting for 20 days.
Juice. 20 days on wheatgrass juice and watermelon juice.
Okay.
And I would go naked in the jungle.
Excuse
I kid
me?
you not. This is true.
Hold it.
This is true.
When were you doing
I would
this?
go.
What era was this?
It was a time. It was a season of my life.
Okay.
I was private. I was private in the jungle, and I do yoga naked every day in that 20 days.
All right.
And I kid you not, a kangaroo would sit there, just sit there and just watch me. And we had this understanding where I would just sit and do yoga, and I would not like bother him, and he would not bother me. He would just sit for the entire yoga practice. He would watch me, and then we'd go our own separate ways, and we'd meet back the next day. Every day was so magical.
It's incredible.
I shared.
Thank you.
It's a true story.
Did you put that in your book?
No, that's private for you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, let's get on with that. I don't know what that had to do with the nugget, but it's an interesting story, isn't it?
God is saying that it was a man in a kangaroo suit. Okay, we lost him. Let's reel him back in.
He's gone.
Sorry. There was something else funny on the board, but that one was funnier. It just took the funny out of me and replaced it. Okay. A man in a kangaroo suit. Okay. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayat. Before we start the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisance to the Supreme Lord Narayan. Unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttamasloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam, and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troubles in the heart become eradicated, in loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Gyana Timarandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My teachers are opening my eyes with a torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances at their lotus feet.
Okay.
Let's take it back a notch.
Do you know where we are, Raghu?
420.9. We finished 9, but we're going to redo it. We're going to do a do-over because Kaustubha is the rewinder.
Yeah, well, I just thought it was such a, so now we have Lord Vishnu speaking, right? He's speaking to Prithu. He's got Indra by his side. He's asking Prithu, he's going to ask him to forgive. I think he already asked him, but he's going to ask him in greater depth. But he's beginning to say that, he's speaking on a very broad level. I mean, there was this, difficult circumstance to work out, how to deal with Indra, how to respond, how to relate. All right, he's done something really crazy. But let's work this out. But he's speaking on a very broad level. He's talking about understanding that we're an individual soul, we're a spark of spiritual energy, and we're eternal, and so on. And he's just sharing a lot of that basic, fundamental spiritual knowledge. But he gives this formula. You could say it's a formula for becoming satisfied within, right? And that was in text 9. And it's a combination of two things. It's not one thing, it's two things. So this is what he said in text 9. He said that when one situated in their occupational duty, that's the first part of the formula. You ready, Raghu?
Yeah.
You are ridiculous, Raghunath.
Sorry.
Just pull yourself together.
Stupid.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry.
All right. So he's saying one part of this formula is to be situated in your occupational duty, and that has so much implication coming from the Vedic context, right? But we were talking about this yesterday. We're going back to Sunday, that there are these functional duties that we all have in life, right? In the Vedic paradigm, it's all kind of laid out in detail. You may be a Brahmana, a Kshatriya, a Vaishya, a Shudra. You may be a Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasa. There's all these different roles that one can play in society. They each come with their own duties. And those duties are designed in a particular way. They recognize one's stage of life or one's kind of like mental kind of tendencies or aptitudes. And it's designed that if you embrace that role in the duties that are part of it, well, it will elevate you. But how it elevates you, it's different for different people and how you approach it. Some people perform those duties. That they look at the Vedic text and say, this is piety, right? This is religiousness. This is, this dharma is a good thing, and it brings forth good material results. It's a way of cultivating good karma. So if I'm a responsible father and husband, right? If I'm an ethical person in the workplace, if I demonstrate my gratitude to the gods for everything, all the gifts of nature, then I will be rewarded with all kinds of material prosperity in this life and in future lives, right? Especially in future lives, it can go to like really incredible levels of material prosperity or material happiness. But
can I butt in with a question here?
Yes.
When we talk about like the three, sometimes they say the four goals of life within quote Hinduism, dharma, artha, kama. Is this what you're talking about? By doing your dharma, you will get artha and kama. Does it go in that order?
Yeah, the idea there is that it's like saying here's a very gradual path of spiritual evolution, right? First, be very dharmic, do your duties in life, do them with in a sense you could say religiously, right? Do them religiously, take up all these roles and embrace them, and you from that dharma, from that duty, will come artha, will come prosperity, will come wealth. You'll be blessed. You'll be blessed by material things, and from that naturally kama will come. You'll have enjoyment. So
you'll get whatever you want. You'll get your desires fulfilled.
You'll get your desires, and again, these are kind of in a very, you could say, like a religious kind of context.
Sattvic.
You'll enjoy family life. You'll have, like a man might, you'll have a happy marriage and a beautiful wife. You'll enjoy sexually. You'll enjoy you'll enjoy the love of being a father and having children. You'll be blessed with wealth, so you can have a comfortable home. You could be blessed in your business world, and again, in future lives, it can manifest in ways that are like, you elevate yourself in the universe. You go to higher planets where the enjoyment is far greater than it is here. Okay. So
sold.
Well, no,
you're saying we don't purchase it.
Well, so that's what the ancient Vedic texts are teaching, and it's a step forward. It's a step up. But when we get to the Bhagavatam, which again we understand is the conclusion of all of Vyasadeva's works, the conclusion of all the yoga literature, it's saying, do those same duties and embrace those same duties, but for a whole different reason, right? Because the goal of life is not to enjoy materially. The goal of life is actually to experience divine love and to always to live absorbed in divine love. And so there's a way that you can, and so we were talking about functional. We could say we have a functional identity and a fundamental identity, right? The functional is in relation to our temporary duties in this world. And the fundamental identity is that ultimately I'm connected to God through love. And that love extends to every living being. That's who I am underneath it all. I may be a father today, and next life I may not be. I may be a business person today, and I may be retired tomorrow. Those are all relative, in relation to the time and the circumstances and so on. But fundamentally, I'm a lover of God. That's who I am, eternally. And so now this is what this verse says. He says, "My dear king, when one's situated in their occupational duty," that's the functional, "engages in my loving service without motive for material gain," that's the fundamental, right? That's who we are. That by nature we love God, we serve God without desire for any. This is called love. I'm not doing it because I want something from you. I'm doing it out of love. And it's only then that we find satisfaction. It's only then that we're complete. It's only then that we've recovered our true nature. And so he's tying these two together right here, which isn't done necessarily so clearly in the Vedic literature, but by the time we get to the Bhagavatam, it's being clarified. Vyasadeva is choosing, when he lays out the Bhagavatam, which is 18,000 verses and many, many, many stories, he's choosing particular stories to highlight this point, that if you've been reading my old books and you came to a certain conclusion, like, for instance, you might have come to the conclusion that doing your duty for material gain is a way to happiness. I'm telling you that there's much more than that. And so he ties together the duty here with our fundamental nature. So again, he says, when one is situated in their occupational duty, engages in my loving service without motive for material gain, then they gradually become very satisfied within. Right. That's
You know what's beautiful?
deeper happiness comes from. Yeah.
You know what's beautiful, Kaustubha, is like, you're right. It is, if you're going into sort of like, say, I want to get into yoga philosophy or yoga lifestyle or study Eastern wisdom, it is immensely confusing.
It can be.
Until you get, right? I mean, I was into it. This is what I loved. This was my passion, reading books on yoga, ancient books on yoga. And
Manusamhita.
Manusamhita, Yoga Sutras, you know, the works of these, you know, Vivekananda. It's
little Buddhist
you have this
stuff.
idea of worshiping devas or devis, right? Compared to God is impersonal, to God is personal, and then sometimes the gurus would say both, and it's or God is nothing. Then there's a whole field of everything's nothing, and we are nothing, and we're just creating all this stuff, and it's very, very confusing until I read the Bhagavatam, which really zooms out and sees how those partial truths fit into an absolute truth.
Right.
And truthfully, once you get into the Bhagavatam, it's hard to go anywhere else because you see it in all perspectives. You can see, I completely understand the concept of impersonalism. I can completely understand demigod worship. I completely understand, but I understand where it's supposed to be going. And that's why once you get hooked with in bhakti, you feel like now everything else is almost like spoiled in one sense, because you're not disagreeing with anything out there, and you don't see them as even opposed to each other. You see them as part of everything assisting you getting up the mountain.
You know, it's what you're saying reminds. I just saw a quote this morning, but what you're saying just is totally aligned with it, and this is coming from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Okay. He was a very important figure in the history of Bhakti Yoga. He said this in 1869. You ready?
Okay.
And he's talking about the Bhagavatam. He's calling it here Bhagavat, but he's speaking about the Srimad Bhagavatam. He says, the superiority of the Bhagavat, okay, the superiority of this book that we're reading. And when he says superiority, he's basically, he's really not devaluing anything else. But he's saying there is a hierarchy, that this is a message that's developing and evolving, and it finds its full evolution in the book, the Bhagavatam, right? That Vyasadeva had a message that was growing and expanding and increasing and evolving to the full point of Bhagavatam. So he says here, the superiority of the Bhagavat consists in the uniting of all sorts of theistic worship into one excellent principle in human nature, which passes by the name of bhakti. Interesting.
Yeah, it's not like by accepting calculus, you're diminishing addition and subtraction.
Right.
There
you go. Yeah,
right.
Good way.
You understand their purpose and how they all fit in together.
That's a perfect way to express it, Raghunath. Yeah.
Yeah.
You pulled yourself together, and now you're smoking.
Now I'm smoking. I don't know what happened. I just breathed a little deeper. I was possessed by a laughing Davy. You ever had one of those things where you laugh and you can't stop laughing? It's not even funny anymore, but you're just like possessed by laughing.
Well, I've seen people do that before.
Come on. You laugh.
I do laugh. But I think that's such a great way to put it. Someone may hear this statement by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. The superiority of the Bhagavad. Hold it, we're right there. We're
Right.
getting
Hold
sectarian.
it. There we
What is
go.
it?
I thought
Yeah,
this
yeah.
was ecumenical. I thought this was a broad understanding. I thought we were all in this together.
That there's many doors to one palace.
There's many
and all that.
paths to the top of the hill.
And so, like you said, that was a great way of putting it. When you understand like if you look at calculus and you understand its sophistication is beyond that of addition and subtraction. But that doesn't diminish addition. They're still important, but when they're understood in the broader context, you understand them more deeply.
I mean, I was going to say too, like just to spell it out in black and white, to make it really simple. Everybody talks about higher power, but where else do you see higher power having form and description and pastimes? Everybody talks about heavens. The Vedas explain heavens and gradations of heavens. Everybody talks about a hell or a place of punishment. The Vedas talk about hellish planets, which there's pain, but there's also, it's not an eternal place. It goes into great detail about it. Everybody talks about the concept of a soul, but where do you hear about descriptions of the soul? And what is the soul? And is the soul in man or beast or plant? Right? And what is the body compared to the soul? Everybody talks about mystical powers, but what about these mystical powers? Are they the goal? Does it mean you're evolved, or does it mean, right? Is it just magic? I find that the Vedic window is or the Vedic paradigm sheds so much more light on these things that are very nebulous and very sort of just mysterious.
And particularly
nebulous,
very nice.
Nebulous.
And particularly the Bhagavatam is where it all comes together, right? So, like, again, I'll read what he said. He said the superiority of the Bhagavad consists in the uniting of all sorts of theistic worship. Here we're talking about doing your duty, right? That's a particular type of theistic worship. But some people are doing that theistic worship then God will give me the material things in life. But he's saying, but it's going to take
That's another one. That's another one we can say. What's the point of worshiping God? Is to get your desires met? That's another one I didn't share. We're very clear about this within the Gita.
Within the Gita and here the
Bhagavatam there.
Yeah. So here he's tying that idea of worship, which can be done for so many different motives. The Vedic literatures are going to show you, do it for this. If this is where you're at, then do it for this motive. But the Bhagavatam is going to say, now deepen your motive. Now purify your motive. Right? So he says, the Bhagavatam consists in uniting all sorts of theistic worship into one excellent principle in human nature. In other words, what is our real nature underneath it all? What is that principle? That principle passes by the name of bhakti, pure devotion, love. We're going to take all of it. We're going to take all of these different ideas, karma, jnana, yoga, and we're going to tie them all in for one purpose and one purpose only, and that is divine love. That's the whole point. And if you don't do that, you're never going to find complete satisfaction, because that's actually what you're designed to do, is to love, right? And so so all of that, this verse, text 9 that we just read, it's an example of how everything in the Bhagavatam is growing out of the second chapter of the first canto, right? Like, in the first chapter, the sages in the forest, they put these questions forward to Sutta Goswami. Tell us what's the most important thing for all humanity. What brings the ultimate good? What leads to Atma Supersidity, complete satisfaction of the soul? And then in the next chapter, he says that it's only devotional service, it's only bhakti, that is the supreme dharma, and that grants one complete satisfaction of the soul. Now in text 8, 2 verses later, he says this, and we can see how what we read in text 9 in the 4th canto, the 20th chapter, it's stemming from this. It's giving, in other words, he's going to make the statement here that I'll read in a moment in the 2nd chapter of the 1st canto, and then he's going to give many stories to explain this point. So this is what he said. He says, the occupational duties that a person performs according to their own position, right? Those dharmic
only
duties.
So much useless labor.
Exactly. If they do not Provoke attraction
provoke attraction for the personality of Godhead.
for the message of the
It's a
personality.
great verse.
Yeah. So in other words,
What a great verse.
when he's saying that these duties is Vyasadeva, the same author that told you that you could do these duties for material things back in the Vedas, is coming back now, and he's saying, you know what, guys, let's grow up now, right? Really, the fact is that if it's great that you're doing these duties, but if you're not doing them for the purpose of love, if you're doing them for the purpose of things, if you're doing it for the purpose of material benefit and not for divine love, it's really just useless labor. You're just going around and around and around. Your wheels are spinning in this universe. Step it up, right? And so then...
You know how I explain that?
Yeah.
Go.
No, go ahead.
You know, well, finish your thing, because I have a way of, like, I
okay.
translate that verse also
Well, what
when I'm giving class.
My point is, that point is made here in this one chapter, the second chapter of the first canto, where Sutta Goswami, right as he starts to answer those, this is the context in which Vyasadeva wanted to clarify everything. He brought these sages up, and they're in the forest, and they're asking these fundamental questions. And then Sutta Goswami speaks a chapter which he just clarifies everything. And then you have thousands and thousands and thousands of verses of hundreds of stories that are illustrating the points made in that chapter again and again. So here we're hearing the story of Prithu. Vishnu comes in and he speaks a point that, in other words, Sutta Goswami, he made his points, and then all these stories are ways of validating those points. Right? I'm going to show it to you from this angle, from this angle, from this story. This time Vishnu says it. This time Prahlad says it. This time Dhruva says it. This time Yudhishthira says it. And he's going to show you that message and how it plays out. So by the time you're done with the whole thing, you're like, okay, Sutta Goswami, you were right. Now I have the picture. Now I know how to make sense of the whole thing. You backed up what you said. All right. So you were saying?
I was saying when I read that verse again, Dharmas Vanustita Pumsham.
That the occupational activities a person performs according to their own position are only so much useless labor if they do not provoke attraction for the message of the personality of Godhead. That means like love. Like I want to hear about him, right?
Right.
Like that.
When they say occupational activities, they mean the dharma. The dharma that you perform in this world is actually a useless waste of time if it doesn't provoke attraction to the personality of Godhead. What a powerful verse. I always say that because, in America, we don't emphasize it as much, but within what we know as Hinduism, you always hear, do your dharma, follow your dharma. What is the goal of the Gita? Do your dharma. And so, especially, I think it's within the Hindu circles, or even very loose Hindu teachings, is do your dharma.
Yeah.
But here it's saying the complete opposite, that if you do your dharma, but it doesn't give you love of God, your dharma is a waste of time. And I think we could understand that. This is, I just really want your personal feedback of how I explain this, and tell me what you think, Kaustubha.
All right.
I always say it's sort
Analogy.
of like the responsible father, right? He's dharmic. He doesn't gamble away the savings. He doesn't cheat on the spouse, but he's got no love in his heart.
Mm-hmm.
What a waste. What a waste. What good is responsibility if it's not bringing to this divine connection with the divine, and thus with everybody within your life? What do you think about that one, Kaustubha?
Yeah, I'm buying. In other words, there's something more to life.
What good is responsibility?
Yeah.
Go on.
Well, here they're saying that one result of responsibility can be material prosperity, right? But your heart's never going to be satisfied with that. And so go deeper, go further. Yeah, I like it.
All right.
All right.
I like that. I like
So
I like it
again,
more.
we see that here when he says it's this is the tying of what that verse said, right? Your occupational duties are a waste of time if they're not leading to you developing this attraction to God. That's tying the functional to the fundamental, right? Functionally, I have duties in life to perform. Tie them to the fundamental. You're developing your love for God. Then they'll lead to satisfaction. Otherwise, waste of time. Okay. So text 6,
Gotcha.
Vishnu continues.
Okay. That was text. Wait, that was text.
That was 9. Did I say text 10 now?
Yeah. Text 10. Come on. There we go. When the heart is cleansed of all material contamination. Wow, what a day. Imagine that day. You wake
happy
up.
day.
I'm free. Oh, happy day. When the heart is cleansed of all material contamination, the devotee's mind becomes broader and transparent, and they can see things equally. At that stage of life, there is peace, and one is situated equally with me, Lord Vishnu, as Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha.
So we're hearing in this, like in this verse, the language in this verse sounds very much like the Jnanic language, like the word kaivalya is used, right? That you achieve the stage of
in
kaivalya.
Sanskrit.
The word Brahma is used here, spirit. The word Shantim is used here, peace, right? And so commonly these are like the goals of the Jnani yogis, right? So but here Vishnu is saying when the heart is cleansed of all material contaminations, the devotee's mind becomes broader and transparent, and one can see things equally. In other words, this also is very much like a Jnanic idea, right? That because I've realized that I am spirit, the external things don't shake me anymore. I'm seeing everything equally. Hot or cold, I see it equally, right? Day or night, honor, dishonor. I'm firmly situated. I'm not getting shaken. And at that stage in life, there's peace. And one is situated equally with me. It's saying that you have risen to the spiritual level. But Srila Prabhupada, now he's going to go into this because he's going to talk about this idea of kaivalya.
It's been co-opted. Is that the word? Co-opted? Corrupted and co-opted by Mayavadis. Should we explain what Mayavadi
or
is?
again, I mean, you could say it that way. You could just say it's not the full evolution of the idea, but it's one that's been broadly promoted. So Prabhupada wants to clarify this here.
Okay. The Mayavad conception of kaivalya and that of the Vaishnav community is different. The Mayavadi thinks that as soon as one is free from all material contamination, they are merged into the existence of the Supreme. The Vaishnava philosopher's conception of kaivalya is much different. He understands both his position and the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In that uncontaminated condition, the living entity understands that he is the eternal servitor of the Supreme, and that is called Brahman realization, the spiritual perfection of the living entity. This rapport is very easily achieved. As stated in the Gita, when one is engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, they are immediately situated in the transcendental platform of kaivalya or Brahman.
Okay.
What's that verse? Do you know that verse?
Was that Brahma
Buddha Prasanatma
Nasojati Nakanshati Samasarveshu Bhuteshu Madbhaktim Labate Param. I
think
think
one of the pundits on the board can put it up there. Okay, so this is a really sort of a bhakti conception of the word kaivalya. It's not like kaivalya is just, sometimes in bhakti circle it's a bad word. It's used here in the Bhagavatam, but the idea is that the translation is freedom from material contamination. It doesn't mean you lose your personality,
right? And
you give up your personal existence.
Okay.
All right. Anything you want to share on that?
No, that's great. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Text 11.
Next. I think it's moving slow. Okay. Anyone who knows that this material body, made up of the 5 gross elements, the sense organs, the working senses, and the mind, is simply supervised by the fixed soul, is eligible to be liberated from material bondage. Right? When you start to analyze what you are and what you're not.
5 gross elements. What are they?
Mara?
Tosses it over to Mara.
Earth, water, air, fire, ether.
Yep. And then the sense organs.
Mara. Mara.
Raghu.
Mara. You can't hot seat me. I hot seat you.
I just got the hot seat one.
The sense organs.
Yeah. I mean, that's easy
touch,
enough
taste,
Hearing.
hearing.
Yeah.
Smell.
And then
the working senses in the mind.
So what are the working senses?
Like
feeling.
walking.
Yeah.
Jogging. Badminton.
Running. Walking real slow.
Elliptical.
So again, there's the idea is that there's actually 11 senses when we look at this from the Sankhya idea, right, from the yoga philosophy, that there's the 5 senses that we know, and then there's 5 senses of action, like the ability to move. They say the legs, like you can say mobility, and then they say the hands, like the ability to say manipulate or grip, and then there's the voice, the ability to speak. And then there's the organs of evacuation and the organs of of reproduction. So those are the 5 working senses. And then there's the mind. So that makes 11 senses altogether. So if one can break this down and analyze it and see that anyone who knows that this material body made out of all these things is simply supervised by the fixed soul, right? I'm just watching this happen. It's not me. I'm observing it. That person becomes eligible to be liberated from material bondage. I'm watching it. You want to read the commentary to this? There's a lot of good stuff.
Yeah. The verse describes how one can become liberated from material bondage. So it's exciting, huh? This is how you do it?
Okay.
Yes. How do you get liberated from material bondage? That should be the question on everybody's mind today. Like on the number one, your to-do, Rachel, what's on your to-do list today? Yeah, it should be. Let me change it for you. How do you become liberated from material bondage? That should be number 1 today. Whatever you got going, shift it down. Yeah, figure out how to get liberated from material bondage. The first point is that one must know that the soul is different from the body. This is called dehi, or one possesses the body, right?
Mm-hmm.
The material body is called deha, or the embodiment of the soul.
Okay.
The body is changing at every moment, but the soul is fixed. Therefore, the soul is called kutastam.
Fixed.
Right? The change of body, what's that?
Unchangeable, fixed. Yeah.
Unchangeable. Kutastam. Right? So deha or dehi means like a home, right? Also. Is that correct?
The deha is the body in the home, and dehi is the person in the home, or the soul.
Okay. The change of body is enacted by the reactions of the 3 gunas, the 3 modes of material nature. One who has understood the fixed position of the soul should not be disturbed by the incoming and outgoing interactions of the modes of material nature in the form of happiness and distress. In the Bhagavad Gita also, Lord Krishna recommends that since happiness and distress come and go due to the interaction of the gunas, one should not be disturbed by such external movements.
2:14.
Even though when...
Right. 2:14.
Well, even though one is sometimes absorbed in such external movements, he has to learn to tolerate them.
Tolerate.
The living entity should be always indifferent to the action and reaction of the external body. Should be. Lord Krishna says in the Gita that the body, made up of gross physical elements and the subtle elements, is completely different from the soul proper. One should therefore not be disturbed by the action and the reaction of the 8 gross and subtle material elements. This really spells it out quite simply, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The practical process to attain.
Every word has me right. The practical process. Go ahead, and we'll get back to that.
The practical process to attain this stage of indifference is to execute bhakti, execute devotional service, like do your spiritual duties in this world, despite whatever you're going through.
So now
it's too cold out. It's too hot out.
Yeah.
Right.
Now I'm looking at the definition of the word practical. Okay. So practical means of or concerned with the actual doing or use of something rather than with theory and ideas, or likely to succeed or be effective in real circumstance, feasible, right? So when Prabhupada says the practical process, what he's doing is he's saying that there are other processes as well. They're valid, they're real, but if we're going to get practical, if we're going to talk about something that's likely to be effective for us, if we're not just theorizing about yoga and transformation, but we actually want to do it practically, then he says, then the practical process to attain this stage of indifference is to execute devotional service. Because very few of us would be successful at so many of the other paths where you have to wander off into the forest and sit alone and control the mind with extreme self-control. We're not good at that. We are dented cans. So here's
now,
the
a lot of
practical
those
practice.
things, right? And a lot of those things we take into our bhakti practice also. We take our, it's good to have some, private time surrounded by nature, pilgrimage, meditational time where it's solo time. But there is also, and you will find your life, even on the bhakti path, starting to transform a little. A lot rather, as you add these principles, you'll start to see yourself as being attracted. So you don't want to eat too much. You don't want to overeat. You don't want to oversleep. You want to regulate the senses instead of like the senses are just going on autopilot. So naturally those will come into being, but in reality, we're still within this world. We're in this world and seeing the world for what it is. Really, we don't just give up on the world. We're in this world. We're just not of the world.
Sure.
Hmm.
You want to complete that? We
Okay.
can complete this. Only one.
You go.
Only one who
go.
constantly engages in devotional service 24 hours a day can be indifferent to the action and reaction of the external body. When a person is absorbed in a particular thought, they do not hear or see any external activities, even though they are enacted in their presence. Similarly, those who are fully absorbed in devotional service do not care what is going on with the external body. That status is called samadhi. One who is actually situated in samadhi is understood to be a first-class yogi. There we go. All right. I think that's it for today.
Oh, that went quick.
Takeaway time.
Isn't it great when it goes quick? That's a good sign. That means you're enjoying what you're doing,
All right.
right?
Sure.
Mara, what you got for me? I need something to take with me today.
I got some good stuff for you today. We don't have to change anything, just Krishna-ize it.
It's true. It's true.
We're walking right past clues to the magic of the universe.
It's magic. It's magic. Do you believe in magic? Do.
Live absorbed in divine love.
You know, like, oh, come on. What?
I thought that was going to be a coffee mug or a
That's a
tattoo.
great
or
one. Yeah, that's
something.
like a nice tight one. All right.
Get hooked.
Sorry, person who wrote that in, but I thought it was a good one.
Yeah, if I don't give you 2 thumbs up, don't take it personally.
Get hooked with bhakti.
Get hooked with Bhakti. Okay, go on.
The Vedic paradigm sheds light on all.
Yeah.
I
We're
think that was
designed
mine.
to love.
I can gong my own. What we were designed to love. I like that. That's a catchy T-shirt.
Okay.
That's the back piece you were thinking about, Mara. Mara's like, what should I get? What should I get? A giant tulip?
I think when it
a
comes
giant
time
vegan
for the,
meatball tattoo?
when it comes time for the takeaways, you should get like a cigar, and you know, like.
How about if I
and-
hold up numbers?
Yeah, that's what I was imagining.
You could do that.
Numbers.
But I was more like, bring me more ideas. No.
Okay, what else?
Knit the functional to the fundamental.
Knit the functional.
Knit it.
Okay, knit it. I love this
Knit
word
the
Stitch it,
knit.
tie it.
We're using
To the
knit a
fundamental.
lot lately. Knit it.
Yeah, knit it. So I think it's a good one.
What else?
What good is responsibility if there's no love?
Yeah.
That's a song. That's a song.
Not everything's a song.
Not everything is, but that one is.
Tie everything into divine love.
Tie a yellow ribbon round the old oak tree.
Dharma should bring us closer to God.
Tony
This is
Orlando and
four.
Dawn.
And
Okay.
naked kangaroo yoga is the new goat yoga.
No one can copy that. That was a unique, special Krishna miracle between me and a magical being. And I'm sure that kangaroo remembers it like I remember it too.
It may remember, but it may have a different experience of that.
Or it could have been a guy in a kangaroo suit. And of course, it was Matt Godden who wrote that. Man, Matt, you got me that time. I thought ever laugh so hard you think like I might die. I might die here. Oh, Krishna. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. What a nice way to start our morning, laughing and joking and frolicking and pillow fighting.